and doing a lot. हमारा आयुर्वेद तो शहद के योगवाही गुण के कारण और इसका जो अनुरस है वो कषाय होने के नाते हर तरीके से स्वीकार्य है हमारी इस व्यवस्था में। आपका स्वागत जी।
I would like to welcome Dr. Saikat Basu from Canada. He is not well, then also he is joining from Calcutta. I welcome him and I salute him for his zeal. Definitely welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
मैं सैकत बसु जी की झील के कारण अभी तक चेतना में हूँ। आदमी सबसे अच्छा ध्यान लगाता है टॉयलेट में, और भगवान ने ऐसी कृपा की मुझ पे कि मैं 4 बजे तक वाटरफॉल था, 27 बार हो आया था ध्यान लगाने, और उसके बाद अभी 4 बजे से लेके अभी तक आपकी वेबिनार के बीच में भी 4 बार हो आया हूँ। तो मेरी काउंटिंग इस समय 35 हो गई है। कल से आज तक 35 बार ध्यान लगा चुका हूं मैं टॉयलेट में जाके। पहले डायरिया था, अब डिसेंट्री है। खिचड़ी खाने के बाद सिचुएशन बदली। और हनी की बात जहां तक सर आप कह रहे थे, हनी तो तब होगा जब हनी बी बचेगी। हनी बी नहीं बची तो हनी कैसे? इसलिए मैंने बड़ा यूनिक टॉपिक रखा, हनी बी टेक केयर। अब वो समझने वाला जो भी समझ जाए। मैं सुपर्णा सान्याल जी का स्वागत करता हूं। I would like to welcome Dr. Suparna Sanyal ji and Dr. Saikat Basu. Welcome. He is our best pillar of the IRES, AYUSH Samriddhi. Saikat ji, really, I am grateful to you that after all your illness, you are with us. And that is also at 10:30 p.m. Great.
Thank you, thank you. May I, Pavanji, may I maybe allow Madam to speak first, because her mother is not so well. So
ladies first, every time ladies first, and you are our guide. Whatever you will say, that is our instruction for us.
Let me introduce Professor Suparna Sandal Mukherjee, and she is one of my research collaborators currently working in India. She is a leading social anthropologist who has worked extensively on medicinal plants and on tribal life and various other enriched areas of anthropology, particularly from the the tribal districts of West Bengal, Jharkhand, Orissa, and has extensive knowledge in that area. So may I request Professor Suparna Sandal Mukherjee to kindly deliver her presentation, and then once she is done, I'll finish it off. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks to all.
Welcome, madam.
I convey my best regards to the all dignitaries who are present here. So today, with the request of Dr. Basu, I am just presenting my little work which I have done in this field during my research work. So honeybees and Anthropocene. Honeybees and Anthropocene. Honeybees is a burning topic today. So as honeybees colonies are continuous to go perish, especially in the area where the tribal people are living. In this perish situation, the high risk factors is going on. Beekeepers are very much in dwindle situation. They couldn't get the way how they can conserve honeybees. But honeybees is a very important and potential factor today to keep the safe environment, to give the tribals and to enhance socio-economic and socio-cultural orientation among the tribal people. So they divided into 2 ways. One is how the best honeybees are keeping for the reason of health and productivity. So for the health, we know then I should know that what is the contribution of honeybees to keep the health situation. So there is 2 methods. Number 1, conventional beekeepers, and number 2, non-conventional beekeepers. The conventional beekeepers who are protecting honeybees in the natural way, to the natural approach of their traditional process, how to keep the bees. And the same way, they are keeping the bees in natural system in the forest area, in their surroundings, in the forest surroundings, because they are living in the deep inside the forest range. They are practicing, social forestry. At the time of practicing social forestry, they are pursuing the beekeeping. But this process is not fruitful in every time, because there is some lacking. They don't know the scientific approaches. They don't know how to keep the bees and how to use the bees, and which bees are have the potentiality to make the honey. So there is no scientific background, but in the traditional approach, what they have learned from their family background, they are just practicing. But this way, it is very harmful to them. Because whenever they are utilizing pesticides, but they are spraying on the on the honeybees, so that's why the colonies is totally destroyed. Another way, the non-conventional beekeepers, that is a modern approach. This modern approach is introducing through Anthropocene. Anthropocene is a scientific it is scientific approach where the honeybees are practicing in the scientific manner to protect the environment and to save the environmental ecological aspects, environmental factors, then the beekeepers, and then the bees, especially the modern fluctuations. And at the same time, there are several species which are going to extinct. So the scientific way, or through the Anthropocene, we can protect it in a scientific manner. This Anthropocene has been introduced in 2000, the contemporary era. Why this 2000 they have been introduced? Because the Anthropocene there is no concept about the Anthropocene, because we people don't know the geological time period. It is a geological epoch. So when the geological era is related, and when the geological era is contributing, that means geological factors are depending upon. How the geological factors, we know that there is the several species was surviving, several species was extinct, several species are surviving till today, but in a very negligible manner. So to identify those species, if we can identify those species which are going to be extinct, so and we can make it in a scientific manner to produce the bee honey, so these bees are very much important for this present era. At the same time, the beekeeper is trying the both ways. They have emphasizing in the multi-species. These multi-species, they don't know which species are very important and which species are giving us the more product. But in the Anthropocene, they can produce the more honey. So they encounters and interrogate the idea of sustainability in the agricultural point, because in practice of agriculture, so they are destroying the bees colonies, but in practice of agriculture, they can also they can also enhance the productivity of the bees. So through Anthropocene. So Anthropocene is a factor, and Anthropocene is a geological time period. It was and it is. And it would have been if we can know the proper function of the Anthropocene. In Anthropocene, which is prompt us to ask what's saving the bees and how can we save the bees, and what is the main function of the bees, and how can we save it. So through this Anthropocene, we can save it in several ways. Like the ecological, we can introduce the ecological balance. We can protect the environment, because those bees are, very much productive. Those have the very much productivity. We can incorporate those bees to produce the more honey. So these are all are the scientific factors which is protect us, and which also can save the total environment. And our world the changing world could have been saved through this process. Every year, the honeybees colonies have died in US, UK, all the areas, the Africa, and then India, and the total world is suffering for the sudden death of the honeybees. This sudden death, there are the several factors. There are the several factors which are responsible for destroying these honeybees. But what would have happened? The last natural habitat, the environmental hazards, the ecological problem. The beekeepers are in dwindle situation. When they are in dwindle situation, they couldn't get the proper idea how to practice, how to protect those honeybees. So through Anthropocene, if we can introduce Anthropocene, so in this contemporary era, so we can recognize that and negotiate with the human activity is so long and so large as to be visible in our world, in the earth. So Earth geological records with the changing of atmospheric chemistry. Here, 2 points are very important. We never ever been pointed out that. So like the space research, those space research, we are introducing several types of debris which are just surrounding over the Earth atmospheric situation. But this they are destroying the destroyed research products, the debris which are just flowing on the Earth situation atmosphere. They are changing the chemistry of the atmosphere. So those atmospheric chemistry, when it is changing, that means that those the bees cannot survive just because of the pollution. At the same time, we may notice, we may not be. So when we are going to the Everest, so to reach to the Everest, there are several dead bodies are in the ice. So it is the atmospheric chemistry are destroying every year and every time, which we are not noticed. In this practice, if we can practice this Anthropocene, and if we can introduce Anthropocene, so we can change the chemistry of the atmosphere. When we can change the chemistry of the atmosphere, then we can protect all the species of the bees. Not only the bees, but there are several species which are destroying. There are so many species are abolished. They are endangered. Endangered, not only the species, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, at the same time, the human beings are also in very dangerous situation. So if we can want to protect the honeybees, the Anthropocene is a main factor in today's world, in 21st century. Through this Anthropocene, we can protect the honeybees and we can enhance the productivity. And those, the traditional beekeepers, or the conventional beekeepers, how the way they are practicing without getting knowledge, we can develop the awareness program. We can aware them. We can make them understand. We can learn them, so they can they can learn the technique how to protect these bees and to make the productivity. If we can make because the honeybees are very important. If the honeybees is not there, so the pollination system will be totally abolished. So if the pollination is stopped, that means the new species may not form. So we cannot protect the plant kingdom. For ourselves, for our surviving, we have to protect the honeybees. And honeybees are very important. And the Anthropocene is the today's factor by which we can develop, enhance, we can protect, we can say that the honeybees are enhance the productivities of the honeybees. Thank you very much. Thanks to all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for you joining as well as your presentation. Very nicely, you talked about the smallest creature, that honeybee, and the greatest work it does. So very naturally, you told that honey protect honeybee, we will be rich with honey. And the way they need the atmospheric support, this depends upon we human beings. If we will provide them proper and favorable atmosphere for their development, for their working, then only we can dream of having good quality of honey and their lives of honeybees. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your joining.
Thank you.
And now, with the permission of Dr. Pawan Sharma ji, I request our great friend of Canada, Sir Seed Secretary Kumar Basuji, who is a great person of seed development and seed management. Here he is going to give a wonderful presentation over the protection of honeybees and also the availability of honey only with the help of the life of the honeybees. Thank you so much. Please join. The bunch is yours, and we need your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agnihotri, and thank you, Dr. Sharma. I have just recovered from fever, so I'm not very well. I may have a little cough while I'll be talking, but thanks to Professor Suparna Sandal Mukherjee, she has very nicely given an outline of the various factors which are actually causing the loss of bees. So what I'm going to highlight about mostly about the importance of the conservation of bees and how this is being done right now in and around the world with small examples. It's already quite late, so I'll not take a huge amount of your time, so it will be short and concise. So first of all, as Dr. Suparna Mukherjee has already highlighted, that we are losing bees, and this is impacting 3 industries simultaneously. What are the 3 industries? We usually are aware of the fact that bees are intimately associated with the production of honey, and hence our apiculture industry is negatively impacted if we lose substantial amount of bees. And we already know about the medicinal importance of honey and how important it is in Ayurveda and other traditional formulations, and also as a source of nutrition. But at the same time, it is not only impacting our apiculture, it is also impacting even grossly or very drastically our agricultural system. Because a huge section of the flowering plants, which includes a large number of our crops, that we are growing either as food crops or as industrial crops that are dependent on the honeybees and other species of bees for the purpose of cross-pollination. Plants cannot move from one plant to another, so they are dependent on these vectors for carrying their pollens from one plant to the other. So bees does a very important ecological services, and if their numbers are reduced significantly, there is significant reduction in the yield of particular crops. For example, lots of research on mustard crops, which is called canola in Canada, has been conducted simultaneously side by side with presence of bees and in absence of bees, or in reduced population of bees. And what we found is, as the number of population of bees starts shrinking, the flowering in mustard is also being impacted very significantly, and thus the yield, if there is not enough flower, there will be not enough fruits, and if there is not enough fruits, there will be not enough seeds. And as a consequence, what happens is that there is a significant loss of yield in various crops for that particular purpose. So both from the perspective of the security of our industry, as well as more important food security, bees are very important. But last but not the least, where bees are extremely important is where we deal with bees, particularly in case of forests. Now, think about, we have a huge number of forests around the world. In India, we are expecting to raise our forestry to around a level of, say, 31 to 32% down in another 20 years. But we are currently struggling around 20 to 23%. But even the 23% of this forest, if you think about, these are gigantic, big, tall trees. They are all, and a huge number of them, or in other words, 89% of them, of these forest trees are exclusively dependent on pollinators for the purpose of their cross-pollination. Now, when we are thinking about ornamental plants, or we are doing some crops and stuff, we can do some kind of hand pollination. We can help and shake the plants to help the pollen being transferred. We can use other artificial methods that are being implemented nowadays in modern agriculture, where there is a significant loss of pollinators like bees. But it is impossible to mimic nature, particularly in case of forest, where we have gigantic trees that creates the great canopies and the flowers are at the top. And it is not only the bees that we are dependent. There are hundreds of other different kinds of pollinators, which includes insects such as beetles, wasps, butterflies, moths, bats, birds, snails, slugs, even various species of fungus, various seaweeds and seagrasses. Pollination happens all over the world, not only in the field that we are seeing. Modern researchers have also established that even for the seagrasses to undergo breeding in the sea, and that is so much important for maintaining the oceanic ecosystem. Even the seagrasses are dependent on various oligobentheic sedimentary invertebrates for the purpose of cross-pollination. So it is not just the bees, but because bees have a furry body, if you look into a structure of the bee, they have a airbrush-like structure, just like a painter's brush. And these brushes serve as sharp needles which can transfer pollen grain from one plant to another. Because the structure of the bees are so efficient, they are the most successful in transferring huge amount of pollen grains from one plant to another. That not only helps in our agriculture, not only helps in our apiculture, also in the forestry, and overall the general maintenance of the health of the ecosystem of the entire world. So this is the why both UNICEF, United Nations, and all other conservation natures and agencies have been placing a significant importance to bees, because bees plays a significant role in helping humans so that economy and ecology can go hand by hand. This is very important because bees are tying up the production of honey. They are helping in the production of crops that we are growing, whether for industrial purpose or for our food purposes, and also maintaining the ecosystems of the forest. So it is an integration of the ecology and ecosystem, without which it will be very difficult for even humanity to survive. There has been several reports that are assuming, like, if there are no bees in the world, how this world is going to look like. The world is going to look like very dull and dismal, because most of the flowering plants will be gone because they are dependent on the bees. And as a result of this, our ecosystem will be degraded in such a devastating manner. And all these climate change, global aspects of global warming that we are talking about, it will take unprecedented rates, because even with bees, we are having so much challenges right now. With number of trees are going down, we are having such a huge carbon dioxide when trapping that we are trying to do. Without the bees, when the plants will not be able to survive, our planet Earth is marching, then will be marching slowly towards a condition which is very similar to that we see in case of Mars, right? So in this particular way, bees are very important. Now, how to conserve them? The part of the conservation is, first of all, most of around the world, what is happening is people, particularly the farmers, they are very scared about losing their crops. Whether it is a Western country, whether it is in a developing country like India or a poor African country, a farmer wants to secure a crop production at the end of the growing season. And for the purpose of achieving it, what they are doing is they are overusing synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. Particularly, the over-application of pesticides in our agricultural fields is killing these bees in huge numbers. Now, there are many toxic, non-friendly insects which are pests of the crops that needs to be eliminated. But because these particular chemicals that we are using cannot differentiate between friendly insects, farmer-friendly insects, and the toxic pests, we are actually indiscriminately removing both pests as well as our friendly insects like the bees, because these are all poisonous chemicals. They are landing on the bodies of the animal, and this is getting into their system, and they are dying a cruel death. Now, it is very important that we remain within the threshold level of these particular pesticides. Now, because farmers constitute an important voting machinery or an important voting component for all countries, either developing or underdeveloped or developed nation, there is subsidies that the governments provide for the use of these pesticides and fertilizers, which is good with respect to the expansion of agriculture, the boom of agriculture that we are seeing around the world. But at the same time, it is also killing our friendly pollinator insects, particularly the bees, at an alarming rate. If it continues like this, then there will be time then where we'll even applying pesticides, which is not going to help in our crop production, is because the crop will not be successfully growing because of the lack of bees, in particularly in case of cross-pollination. So reduction of the use of pesticides is important. The encouragement of the practice of organic agriculture has been advocated for a large number of places, but it is not very easy to implement organic agriculture at an industrial scale. Sri Lanka tried to implement organic agriculture instead of conventional agriculture. As you could see, the country is in doldrums. They are not doing good. Their economy is devastated. And one of the reasons that they underwent this devastation is because of rapid transformation towards organic agriculture from conventional agriculture. Although the motive was good, but the country was not prepared technologically to make this shift, and they're paying a heavy price for that. So one has to go for a stepwise changes towards organic cultivation when they are looking for change from traditional agricultural practices. The most convenient way is to make farmers understand that if they do not reduce the amount of pesticides that they are using, they are not only killing the base, but they are also increasing the level of resistance in all these toxic pests that they are trying to eliminate. What happens is after every 2-3 years, one particular chemical that they are using against this chemical has to be dropped, is because all the other insects have developed immunity against it. So you may be spraying 2 liters of it, but it is not killing the insect as effectively as because you have been indiscriminately using it. It is just like taking antibiotics, right? Now the doctors are suggesting that you should not be going to the stores and buy antibiotics and popping up antibiotics indiscriminately whenever you are sick. If you do that, then your body is slowly going to develop antibiotic resistance. And when you are really having a serious infection, then your doctors would have a very, very hard time in controlling those infections by the application of antibiotics, because your body has already gathered an antibiotic resistance, which is very, very deadly in case of treatment of infectious disease. Same is the case of agriculture. If we use toxic chemicals or pesticides too much to kill the insects, what happens is it increases the level of resistance, and no matter how much chemical you are applying, you are not being able to reduce the population of the pest successfully. So this is one. The next part is to create bee habitats. Now we all have various exposed areas that is not agronomically suitable, which could be in your parks, it could be in the boulevard, kitchen gardens, alleyways, or along the irrigation canals, along water bodies. Wherever you can, you should plant for flowering plants, just to provide stock food or resources for the bees to go to find sustenance throughout the growing season. One of our researches indicate that there is a decrease in the loss of bees, not only just because of the application of pesticides, but also because they are not finding enough food, enough flower for them to collect adequate number nectaries and pollen grains throughout the growing season. So it is important that every available space which is not being utilized should be converted into small bee gardens or pollinator gardens. It is cheap. You only need to have a mixture of various crops and annual, biennial, or perennial plants, and throw them, broadcast them. The plants will be growing on their own. They will have their own flowers. They will attract the bees, and they will provide some hiding places for them so that they can breed and they survive. One of the misleading information that we do not have is because we only look into the honeybees. Honeybees usually make hives, but there are hundreds and thousands of other species of bees which actually do not make hives. And contrary to our common belief, they actually make their nest under the soil. So what happens is when you use excess of these chemicals, particularly pesticides, and you have irrigation water or rainwater that percolates through these holes and reaches the holes of these bees that make colonies under the soil, and what happens is these chemicals percolate down and they kill the queen bee. Once the queen bee of a colony is killed, the entire colony is destabilized, because the queen is the main production center. The queen reproduces once. There are a few drones that they go after an upshell flight. They inseminate the queen bee with their sperm, and then the queen bee comes to rest. And for the rest of her life, her only job is to keep on laying eggs, and she's being taken care of the worker bees. So hundreds and thousands of millions of eggs that these queen bees will be raising is the main factor that helps in the maintenance of the sustenance of the bee population. As soon as that queen bee is killed, then the whole bee population is doomed, because there is no one to produce eggs anymore. So the population crush. In Western countries, non-honeybees or native bees, have crashed to the level of several species have crashed to the level of 97% loss, 98% loss, 99% loss. Almost several species have almost become extinct, or they are at the verge of extinction. Unfortunately for India, though, we do not really have any reliable data on the populations of various wild species of bees that inhabit this country in various different ecosystems. This is somewhere that the government needs to focus and invest money to figure out how our wild bee populations are doing. Because if we have no estimate of our wild bee populations, we'll never get to know when our forests start collapsing one after another. As you could see, or may have heard, that in many of these Western countries, particularly even in Canada, United States, Australia, there has been huge problem of wildfires, right? The plants are not flowering at all. There is no rain, plants are getting dry, and if there is a thunder lightning or something, then there is a fire, and this fire spreads widespread. It is killing insects, it is killing livelihood, it is killing agricultural fields and stuff. It is because for long years, these ecosystems are not being taken care of. So they are turning into dry desert areas. And then when there is a fire, this is being rekindled and it destroys huge tracts of forest. It not only destroys the old growth forest, the fire spreads into the fresh green areas of the forest and also causes massive destruction, which is also not only causing destruction of biodiversity, but it also reduces any chances of having any pollination down the line, because it not only kills the bees or the insects, it kills all other animals that are also responsible for pollinations, like bats and birds, and in other species which are responsible, snails and slugs, which are all responsible for this. So our entire ecosystems are getting disintegrated because of this. So it is very, very important that we take avid care of these ecosystems, make them functional, see that how the bee populations are surviving within those forest ecosystems, how they are doing, how their population is behaving. Unfortunately, for India particularly, which is a mega biodiverse country and has hundreds and thousands of species of bees, many of which are wild bees, we have very little information about them. So this is very unfortunate. The Zoological Survey of India do not have much information. The universities do not have much information. Even the central government does not have much information on how our bees are doing in the forest. There has been there has been catalytic movements of atmospheric disasters that are happening in Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and other areas. There has been forest fires just before this, but we have no estimates of how this is impacting the local ecosystems and how the bee populations are doing. For example, the Sundarban, there are like Apis dorsata wild type is actually a bees that come and make their colony in Sundarban, but actually they migrate from Northeast India. Very few people know about this. These bees move hundreds and thousands of kilometers from Northeast India, move and settle down in the Sundarban part of India and Bangladesh, and they produce honey, which is called the Mangal honey, one of the best and the richest quality of honey of the world, and one of the most expensive. It is called the golden honey. But all these things are being significantly impacted because of the forest is being infiltrated. Too many people are going to the forest. They are poor. These people are suffering from abject poverty. They do not have a sustainable income. So they are very much dependent on the forest. So when they are going to collect these honeybees, they are being targeted by snakes, by crocodiles in the river, poisonous snakes, and even tigers while they're moving in there. And even the amount of honey that they're collecting from the forest is a very crude method. They're damaging and destroying a large number of these bees and their colonies, and are able to isolate only a very small part of the production. Even that small part of the production has a very high international value, sold both from West Bengal in India and Bangladesh, but it creates a havoc on their ecosystem, and the unscientific method of firing and setting fire to the plants or fumes to the plants causes death of hundreds and thousands of bees, which are not being harvested properly. So there are bee boxes being laid out in and around the Sundarban region by the commercial beekeepers, but there is a huge demand for the wild honey harvested from the forest, and it has a huge human cost as well as a nature cost. So unless we are aware about these challenges that our bees hold, the bees hold a bright future for us. But we also need to be a part of this integrative ecosystem in making their life easier for us so that they survive, so that we help them to thrive, their population to thrive, and help them to generate their next generation. If you are going out into the forest and wild harvesting every single colony of bees that we see in the forest, then we are actually not allowing them for their next generation to multiply, for their next generation to thrive. So what are you going to collect from the forest in the next successive years? So this is where our sustainable harvest is important. There is necessity for increasing the level of education and awareness of the people that yes, we are dependent on bees, but we also have to look after the wild bees. We also have to care for the wild bees. We also have to create wild habitats for them so that their population do not delimit to an extent that we do not see them anymore, so that we do not get any benefit from them. Honeybees are commercially cultivated. So if you lose a colony, you can buy a colony, replace a colony, create a colony, multiply a colony. This is possible. But the wild bees that are producing and catering to the nature and to our agriculture and to our needs, they are not economically cultivated. So once they are lost forever. And we do not even have any proper documentation or estimation for that. So it is very important on this National Bee Awareness Day. And with folded hands, I request everyone to take interest in the life of the bees and take steps so that we help these bees to regenerate. By taking only from them, not leaving anything for them to survive, is not going to help us as humans to survive in the long run. Thank you very much. It's almost 11 o'clock. I conclude my presentation here. Thank you so much, Dr. Agnihatri and Dr. Sharma, for inviting us once more time to this program. It has been a wonderful evening, and I also learned a lot.
Thank you for a very kind cooperation at that too, at your ill health level and also at this late hours in India, of course.
Thank you.
2-3 points you very importantly raised that there are 3 industries which are really responsible to maintain the health and the availability of the honeybees. This is very important. May it be horticulture, may it be forestry, or our Indian system of medicines plantation as such. Along with you also talked about the very good phenomenon, that is the traditional aspect to use honey could only be possible with the help of the honeybees. This preparation.
If they survive. If they do not survive, then we cannot get the benefit.
Then it will be only adulterated matter, the synthetic one, I can say. So the and also you important and raise the point that the queen bee is the responsible
most important member of the bee colony. Yeah.
So the importance of this queen bee is very, very important. And all the researchers and the so-called owners, they should also put this importance factor.
Special emphasis for the queen bee. Yes.
Exactly.
Very important.
So thank you so much. And you honored our IRES platform that is so late, and we are proud of you. So
I am honored. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Please take care of your health. Please take care of your health.
Sure, I will. You too take care of your health. You look so tired.
This viral
don't get dehydrated. Take some ORS.
Yeah. Face itself revealing all the fact.
Yes.
That the face has gone down in this way. So thank you so much. And I just hand over to Professor Shimaji, because we are rarely having only 6 persons, including us. So
either we can conclude by Lakshmikant Dwivedi sir and Shailesh ji.
Yes. I invite very respectfully Professor Lakshmikant Dwivedi ji sir for your Ashish Vachan on all the 3 webinars of today evening. Thank you sir. Namaskar.
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार। तीनों वेबिनार में काफी उत्साहजनक सुनने को मिला, कुछ नई जानकारियां भी मिली। और जैसे तीज के बारे में है तो उसके कल्चर में काजली तीज है, और उस तरह से जो विभिन्न हमारे यहाँ पे हरियाली तीज या तीज की सवारी भी निकलती है, उस तरह से गणगौर भी निकलती है थोड़ी देर बाद। तो दूसरा जो वेबिनार था उसमें फोटोग्राफी पे था, और फोटोग्राफी और कैमरे से फोटोग्राफी और उसके जो उपयोग है, लाभकारिता है, उसको बताया। तो वास्तव में छाया जो विधा है, ये वास्तव में बहुत अच्छी स्थिति है, और जो बहुत सारे ऐसे इल्यूमिनेशन वाले जो फोटो उन्होंने बताए थे वो आश्चर्यजनक थे कि सब ये मन में जो आपकी भावना है उसमें क्या देखना चाहते हैं सामने, वो वैसे स्वरूप बनते हैं भाव से। और साथ में बाद में तीसरे वेबिनार में मधुमक्खी के संरक्षण के बारे में और उसके विनाश की स्थितियों को देखते हुए जो भी दोनों वक्ताओं ने बोला वो बहुत अच्छा नई जानकारी देने वाला था। एक तरह से हम लोग तो शहद के परीक्षण में ही उलझे रहते हैं कि शहद कब औसत हो जाती है, कब आहार हो जाता है, किंतु उसका जो मूल है कि वो नहीं होगा तो कैसे होगा। तो मेरा तो एक अनुभव इतना सा है कि सब शहद जंगल से इकट्ठा करते हैं लैंप्स में से ठेकेदार, और ला करके वो सप्लाई करते हैं, उसके बाद उसको फिल्टर करके और एक मार्क का सर्टिफिकेशन लेकर के मार्केटिंग करते हैं। तो इसमें इतना मार्जिन है, और वही हनी लूज में बाहर मिलता है तो अलग रेट में मिलता है। तो 85 का एक किस्सा मैं बयान करता हूँ रेट के बारे में, कि आज तो हनी की रेट अलग है, किंतु उस समय 18 रुपए में एक बोतल हनी मिल जाता था लूज में, ओपनली, कोई कंट्रोल नहीं, कोई नहीं, स्टैंडर्ड नहीं, कुछ नहीं। तो सब जंगल से हनी आया, देसी हनी है, सब सत्ते का ले लो 18 रुपए किलो। वही हनी जब लैंप से ठेकेदार बेचता है सरकारी संस्था को तो 16 रुपए किलो में वो दे देता है सारा बल्क में। उसके बाद में वो एक मार्क सर्टिफिकेशन लेते हैं और उसके पहले मैनुअल फिल्टर करते हैं। 2 स्टेज है। तो मैनुअल फिल्टर करके बेचने में जो हनी 18 रुपए 16 रुपए में उन्होंने लिया था वो 21 रुपए किलो में बेच देते हैं, और उसी को माइक्रो फिल्टर करके मशीन से फिल्टर करके उसके बाद जब बेचते हैं एक मार्क का सर्टिफिकेशन के बाद, तो वो सीधा जा करके 75 रुपीज किलो। तो ये जो डिफरेंस है, और हनी वही है, सैंपल ले जाते हैं टेस्टिंग के लिए एक मार्क का सर्टिफिकेशन वाले, और वहाँ क्या टेस्ट रिपोर्ट होती है, क्या मानक है, वो एक अलग बात है, किंतु वो जाते हुए सील करके चिट चस्पा करके टैंक को और परमिट कर देते हैं कि आप इसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दो, पे कर दो, हमारी तरफ से पास है, और रिपोर्टिंग आ जाती है। तो पिछली बार भी कभी चर्चा हुई थी, तो 100 टेस्ट हैं हनी के, और उसके बाद में ऐसा है। तो ये सारी स्थिति क्या है, कुछ पोलोग्रेन मिला दो, कुछ सही हनी मिला दो। रसशास्त्र में बीज बोलते हैं, बीज रूप में आप थोड़ा असली हनी डाल दोगे, और उसके बाद में जो इन्वर्टेड शुगर सिरप है उसके अंदर आप ये इसको कर लो, थोड़ा वैक्स मिला दो, तो हनी के टेस्ट में बहुत सारों में पास हो जाएगा। और जो 100 टेस्ट हैं वो करने की स्थिति अलग है। तो क्या है कि ट्रेडिशनली गाँवों में हनी बनाते हैं गुड़ की चाशनी से, और उसमें जो एक तरह से है ना ये गोखसूर का और जो उस तरह के पादप हैं उनसे उसको प्रोसेस करते हैं, तो वो जमता नहीं है और उसके अंदर वो उनके गुण आ जाते हैं। तो ये रसशास्त्र वालों ने केवल सोना चांदी बनाना नहीं सिखाया, हर चीज नकली बना करके गरीब आदमी को अवेलेबल हो, ये कामना थी। और ये था उस समय कि जो भी कुछ काम में लेते थे वो एडिबल लेते थे, कभी भी केमिकल या उस तरह का नहीं होता। किंतु आज जो नकली हनी बन रही है उसके अंदर दुनिया भर के केमिकल्स भी आते हैं, और वो मानवता के नाते अच्छा नहीं है। इतना ही कह के मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूँ। धन्यवाद, आपने
बहुत
मुझे
बहुत
अवसर दिया, उसके लिए शुभ रात्रि।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आपके आशीर्वचन तो अति आवश्यक है। आपने हनी की चर्चा छेड़ दी, आपको आपने याद दिला दिया। उस दिन गटियार साहब कह रहे थे ना, अब 100 टेस्ट होकर निकलता, अब मार्केट में एडल्ट्रेटेड हनी मिल ही नहीं सकता। किसी की इतनी हिम्मत ही नहीं बाजार में नकली चीज बेच सके, लेकिन सब दुनिया है, सब चलता है, ये बाजार है।
नहीं सर,
आपका
डाल
बहुत
डाल
बहुत
पास है,
ये नहीं
वो
बेच
100 टेस्ट
सकता
में
सर,
पास होने के
लेकिन
बाद भी उसमें संभावना है।
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेस में हीटिंग है। अपने आयुर्वेद में हनी को हीट नहीं किया जाता, लेकिन जितने ये हनी मार्केट में मिल रहे हैं वो सब प्री हीटेड है, वैक्स
सर 80
पिघलाने
डिग्री
के
पे,
लिए,
नहीं तो
कंसिस्टेंसी
मशीन में
के लिए।
फिल्टर ही नहीं होगा, 80 डिग्री
नहीं
पे
तो
मेल्ट
मशीन में
करते
फिल्टर ही
हैं।
नहीं होगा।
और
वही क्या, वही क्या।
दूसरा ये है कि जो डाबर हनी जो सैंपल देते हैं च्यवनप्राश के साथ में, तो सब वो च्यवनप्राश में हनी मिला नहीं सकते, इसलिए अलग से फ्री में दे देते हैं साथ में, उनका कोई अलग से पैसा
नहीं
नहीं
नहीं,
लगता।
नहीं,
वो अलग प्रोडक्ट की बेचने की मार्केटिंग एजेंट है सर, टेक्निक।
हनी भी
हाँ,
हम ही
मार्केटिंग
नहीं,
स्थिति तो
च्यवनप्राश
है।
हमारा लो, ये हनी भी हम ही से खरीदो, ये है
हाँ,
भाव।
तो
चलिए, बहुत
ये
धन्यवाद।
स्थितियाँ, काफी स्थिति है इसमें, इसमें विचार कर सकते हैं आप लोग। एनीवे, शुभ रात्रि सर,
कहा था कोई एक चर्चा हनी पर रखेंगे कभी। ये बहुत
स्वागत
बहुत
स्वागत,
आभार आपका। शुभ रात्रि, नमस्कार,
शुभ
प्रणाम
रात्रि।
सब, नमस्कार। सभी को
शैलेश जी
प्रणाम,
कुछ
सभी का
बोलेंगे
आभार।
क्या?
नमस्कार, शुभ रात्रि सर, पवन सर को
शैलेश जी अभी तक जुड़े हैं, कुछ
आप
बोलेंगे क्या?
स्वास्थ्य, आप प्रोफेसर पवन शर्मा जी, आप
नहीं,
स्वास्थ्य का ख्याल रखिए। हाँ, आपको हमने भेज दिया,
हाँ।
विपिन जी को भेज दिया सर्टिफिकेट, और शायद उन्होंने ले भी लिया होगा। आप आज जुड़े रहे सुबह से ही, तीनों ही वेबिनार में आपका स्वागत है। और आपने लगा होगा कि आयुर्वेद कहाँ भ्रमण करता है, ये आपको लगा होगा। हम तीजों मनाने भी चले जाते हैं, क्योंकि हम मानव पहले हैं, और हमारा काउंटर पार्ट हमारी महिलाएं हैं, हमारी धर्मपत्नी है, बहनें हैं, सभी हैं। तो वो तीज त्योहार होते, एक शब्द है ना, तीज त्योहार, मतलब त्योहार तीज के रूप में और तीज त्योहार रूप में ये मनाते रहते हैं, और हम लोग स्वस्थ रहते हैं, अच्छा भोजन करते हैं। लेकिन आज हम सब लोग प्रोफेसर पवन शर्मा जी की जल्दी स्वस्थ होने की कामना भी करते हैं, जिससे कि अच्छा पकवान आगे चल के खा सकें और पचा भी सकें। जय हो, बहुत बहुत
आप सब
शुभरात्रि।
ठीक है।